I have been doing these videos for 176 consecutive weeks, and they follow a consistent pattern. Something that's happened to me during the week makes me think of a lesson that I can then share with you, and I hope that that has in some way added value to you for the number of ones that you have watched. But in the past few months, I've had something stirring inside of me that I feel like I want to take these messages and a part of my business in a different direction. And so I recently heard that sometimes our mess is what creates our best message. And today I'm going to share a little bit of my mess. Now, I'll just tell you right up front, this may not be for you. And if it's not, that's okay. But it might be for a woman that you know. So you might want to listen. 20 years ago, my life literally turned on a dime. I went through a really difficult divorce. Everything that I had believed in and trusted in and counted on was shaken. And it caused me to make a lot of changes. Shortly after that happened, I became an empty nester. I had a major surgery. I changed careers multiple times, ended up selling my house and moving away from everything that I had known. Kind of like started my life over, did some online dating. Lost both of my parents in about 9 months of each other. Met and married Sam. Downsized from a couple of different jobs, and I started my own business. And when I say it like that in one sentence, it's like, oh, that's what I did. But it was a couple of decades of my life, and I learned a lot of lessons about myself and life and God and growth. And more than once, I felt scared and stuck and hopeless and frustrated. I remember having a sense that the clock is ticking, that there had to be more, that like I was made for more, that I wanted more of a sense of purpose and direction. And what I've realized recently is that I'm not alone in that. There are other women who either have felt all those things, or they're feeling them right now, or they've gone through some or all of those things that I've gone through. And so I've decided I want to give back. I want to create a group that could help other women have a safe place to struggle and learn and grow together. So here's an example of what I'm going to be sharing in that group. I have learned that there are some things that really can keep us stuck in our own growth, and I lovingly call them my blind spots. One of them that I have struggled with and sometimes still struggle with is comparison. It's looking at somebody else and thinking, oh, they're better than I am, or they're farther along. And what I've learned is, you know what? Two truths about comparison. Yep. There are always going to be people who are better at whatever it is that we're trying to do than we are. They're farther along. But that's a good thing, because the second truth is that means that there's somebody that we can learn from. And so when I did my first big career change, I went from education to working in an office where everything we did was on a computer. I worked with these two young guys who knew everything about a computer, and what I knew, you could like put in a thimble. It was pretty embarrassing. And I remember one day, finally when I got over myself, saying to this guy, Brian, could you help me out here? And I had my little yellow legal pad, and I said, could you remind me one more time, how do I attach the Word document to the email? And I wrote down my notes, and he was very kind. But looking back now, I realize if I hadn't been able to get past myself and stop comparing and just ask for the help, I wouldn't have learned all that I did from him. So one of my favorite quotes to help me around this idea of comparison is this: confidence isn't walking into a room thinking that you're better than everyone. It's walking in not having to compare yourself to anyone at all. It's really easy to say that. It's a lot harder to actually do that. And that gap between what we say we know and what we actually do, it's the biggest gap in life. It's called the performance gap. And so what I envision is having a group where we can do the real work of what it means to close that gap between what we know and what we do. Now, comparison is only one of 8 blind spot gaps that we can all have. Yeah, we do. We have those blind spots and we need help seeing how they're impacting us. So if you're curious about the other 7, I would really love to give those to you. So go to my website, amybarge.com, amybarg.com. Scroll to the bottom of the home page and there's a little button that says submit. And when you click on that and you fill out your name and your email address, I will send you a handy dandy handout that tells you what those other 7 gaps are, and it also tells you a step that you can take to close those gaps. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you the one for comparison. Think of somebody that you know that's farther along the path than you are in some area where you'd really like to grow and improve. And write down a few questions. And then reach out to them and say, hey, could we have a 15, 20-minute conversation? I'd really like to learn from you how you're doing this. My experience has been that most people are really anxious to help other people along their own journey. It's a simple thing, but it gets you moving. So like I said, this may not be for you, but it might be for a woman you know that needs to hear this kind of teaching, be in this kind of a group. And so if it is, please share it. And until next week, that's my perspective this Friday. I'm Amy Barge, living large. And I don't know, I might be changing the name of my Friday's perspective. We'll see.